Hello, universe. It's inside you.
Even better.
Earth space.
We're in a funny sort of mood today.
It's just life in general, but...
I think it's also that we're excited to talk to Jenna Mannino.
Yes.
She takes us out of the box immediately.
Yes, indeed. Looks at yoga through an entirely different lens.
Yeah.
A lens you probably have never thought about, and hopefully is going to challenge you a little bit. Cause that's kind of her gist. This is an example just to lay the groundwork of one of the mini shirts that her organization, Dhyani Yoga, makes. And it's really beautiful. It's sort of the darker edge. And I see her popping on.
We're so excited to talk with her. And in just a moment,
The magic of
will do
Instagram
its
Live.
Magic.
And it will
In
join.
the meantime,
Do we have to touch her? Or
no, we're all just going to stay calm. We're going to stay calm and
Am I supposed to breathe?
relaxed. I think we should
offer
breathe.
some instruction?
Yeah. Hi, Lori. Even Mama's joined. You want to go live with Jenna. Here she comes. Doo-doo. Yay!
Hey!
Oh, wait.
Say, tilt your camera. We're getting a lot of forehead.
Beautiful forehead. Oh, we're getting a room tour. No, you're
Now
sorry.
you're
I can't see you guys. You can see me?
You have
We
to
can
make
see
the
you.
camera vertical.
Hang on. I'm going to have to switch to my phone. I'm going to have to start over. Sorry.
No
Don't
problem.
worry, because we are all just hanging out, right?
all good.
Hi, Leah. And Caroline is here. My sweet Caroline. Hello. So we're keeping it real here in the tech world. I don't know if anybody else had this experience. Jenna texted right before, like, wait, how do I do this? And I was like, oh, yeah. I remember when it was my turn to feel that way. And Matt and I were
I feel like that every day. It doesn't even
freaking
involve
out.
tech.
How does this Instagram thing work? I don't know. Now we're
There we
yeah.
are.
See,
All
You
right.
got it to work.
it's all
I'm
good.
not-
Your
I'm not
Your
the best
hair.
with technology. Oh, thank you. I just chopped it off recently.
Wow, good for you.
Whoa.
What brought that upon you?
Just my mom being a hairdresser and she was trimming and I was like, let's go shorter. Just keep going shorter.
Beautiful.
Must be very nice. I know mom. Mom is watching. We love mom too.
Yes. Hi, Mom.
Shout out to Lori.
I had a nightmare the other day that I had shaved my head. And even in the dream, it started growing back because I was
Oh my
so
God.
upset that it had happened.
Oh, man.
Yes,
How are you
the
guys?
ever-changing style.
Jenna, we miss you.
I miss you too. I see you're wearing a Dhyani shirt. I'm wearing my United We Own.
Absolutely.
And
All
I
about the
definitely need to
cross-promotion.
I need to get some new stuff. I see you guys have all these new products I didn't know about. I was just browsing the shop. It
Same.
looks amazing.
Same.
Pick one out and tell us what you want. We'll
Oh,
send it on over.
Thank you. Oh, I'm so
Yeah.
excited. They all look
How's
so good.
Dhyani going?
No, wait. Hold on.
All right.
We get excited. This is what
Oh, that's
happens.
right. I'm sorry. No one else
Get
knows you
excited.
except for perhaps your mom.
Get excited. So, Jenna, who are you in this world?
Tell
Oh
us
my
the awesome
goodness.
things you are doing.
So I'm Jenna Mannino. I am the co-founder of Dhyani Yoga, which is now a fully virtual studio.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
Yeah, we, as you guys know, we started as a pop-up organization or pop-up company, rather, doing like fundraisers and pop-up events and yoga classes at breweries and hair salons. Shout out to Spellbound Salon, where my mom works.
Yes.
And that's really where we started. And then the classes were all going so great, and we opened up a little studio 6 months before COVID. Weren't able to keep the doors open. It was a big heartbreak, but now we're fully virtual and just trying to get by. Like, honestly, day to day, it's like we don't know what's going to happen next. We don't know where we're going, what we're doing. It's been a battle, but it's been really interesting.
Yeah.
And it's been fun because neither of me or Liana Halko, who's my business partner, you guys know her,
Yes.
Yes,
we did not want to teach online ever. We did not want to see ourselves on film, like none of that. It felt really awkward and strange and invasive, but now we do it every single day, multiple times a day. And
Wow.
we've met so many amazing people that we wouldn't have been able to meet from different countries. We're practicing teaching people from Canada and all over the place. So it's been okay. It's been
That's awesome. So yeah,
interesting.
talk about that. How is it? What are the positives, right? Because there's been so many things
Yeah.
that say, God, hate the virtual, blah, blah, blah. What are the positives and tell us about that new broadened reach and what is happening?
Yeah, I honestly never even knew that it was possible to have even more of a community, more of a sense of togetherness being apart. And it's blowing my mind every single day. Every time that I'm down about not having a studio or not seeing people in person, I go online, I teach my class, or we actually have a Discord where we all talk outside of class. Ooh. And we're all so close. People send each other presents within the Diani community from country to country. I swear, we have people who have met from different states and started dating, and now they're living together. All just virtual. It's crazy.
Diani love connection.
It's so crazy, and it's that's all I can hope for. That's the silver lining in all of this is these connections that would not have been made if it wasn't for the internet. And you guys know, we started on Instagram. We've always promoted through Instagram. We never had a real marketing structure at all. And all the connections we've made through Instagram, and it's just crazy.
You made me think of Terence McKenna, who's one of my favorite philosophers, and he says, "Find your others." Mm-hmm. That's something that you are really doing. You're a really niche organization, very specific. Yeah. And so you're attracting, right? A beacon, right? You're putting out these specific vibes and you're attracting that community inward and you're building upon that. And that's fantastic.
Yeah. And I think that it's cool how even in other countries, other states, there are those people who are in need of this kind of niche type of yoga where we do metal yoga and beer and whatever, just free, be yourself, scream, curse at us when you're practicing and you don't want to hold chair pose. And these people, it's not just people on Long Island, which when me and Leanna started, we were oh, Long Island is very whitewashed. And, that's why we started this. It's everywhere that people need this. And we try to be really inclusive, really respectful of everyone's, different styles and they can show up however they want. And that obviously is why I love working with you guys, because you're also creating such an inclusive community. And I think that is what yoga is, right? I mean, or should be.
Absolutely.
I agree. That's something I think that you and Liana and Matt and I and many of the other United We Own, crossover relationships are, I think we were talking about with Raf a little bit too. Mm-hmm. Just people that, are enjoy functioning outside of the box or the general cultural party line.
Yes. The Overton window, right? You've heard about that? I'll let you continue. But just that's sort of the window of acceptable discussion. Right. And so you can see it. And the way it usually works is that the Overton window continues to narrow and narrow about what is acceptable and what to talk about until people take huge steps out and then it widens. And so sort of, like what you're saying, people like us who are trying to step out of the box intentionally to widen that window of what is acceptable. What does yoga mean? Right. Where's the dark side of yoga? I'm sorry. I mean, Overton window. Look it up. It's a good one.
I will.
I don't even know what that is. Well, we got a little excited.
I get excited. Ahead. Oh, we did. Jeez.
So I just want. This is how we know. This is how you know how excited we are to talk to Jenna. All attempts at any organizational structure in this conversation have gone completely out the window. Our fault, but it's
okay. That's how my brain works.
Then he brings it back in.
It comes from love. Well, it's just that I just don't want to go any farther before we say who Jenna is to us, because Jenna, of course, is the most humble person ever. And so I just, it's not just context. It's also just about I can't talk to you in front of a group of people without just saying who you are to us from my heart. And Jenna was one of our very first United We Own Karma Project teachers. When we started United We Own, nobody knew who we were. Nobody knew what we were doing. Most people thought that we were
We didn't know we were doing. We weren't a scam.
But they thought we were. Most
sure
people
of that.
were wait, you're going to pay your teachers, but you're giving free yoga to other people. And we should, what? But Jenna, found us. How did you find United We Own?
It was One Love. One Love. You had the table, and I just put my email down on your email list.
And there you go. And then I read.
I thought Lee had introduced us. Okay.
Well, sort of. I mean, because of One Love. And I read Jenna's application to teach, and I had not reached out to a teacher that wasn't Joe Iadanza, who was on our board to teach for us, but it was like the time. I was like, okay, I'm going to try this. First time ever, teacher I don't know, and I'm going to match them with a project, and it's going to be great. And I had a lot of applications because I was afraid to do it, because it felt like very scary to do that for the
Really
first time. And I was putting it off and putting it off. Finally, I was like, come on, read through all these, and pick somebody. And I kept coming back to yours. And it was a very simple application. I know it had nothing to do with what you wrote there necessarily. I believe that there was just like an energetic connection that was supposed to happen. And we both felt that. And I called you and I loved you from the first time I spoke with you on the phone. And we have asked Jenna to teach in some really challenging places. I will say you are one of the teachers that I know that I can ask to go to places that I think other teachers would be discouraged or afraid to even try, or like really just struggle for 8+ weeks. And you are always somebody that arrives with your whole heart, and no matter what is there in that room, you leave to get ready for the next week with the most beautiful perspective always of like, well, that's what it was meant to be. And there was one person, but it was actually perfect because they really needed this space for themselves. And we did this. And it has always blown my mind, the way that that's really what we do is, that's what we say that we try to do is, and you do it. You arrive with no expectations, and everything that comes at your way, you breathe through it and you don't take it personally, and you remind yourself why you're there. And it creates the most unbelievable environment for the people that you share practice with, where they truly know. And I've heard it from the organization end. I've heard it from all aspects, not just me imagining this. You create a space where everybody really knows that they are exactly perfect to be there just the way they are. And they don't need to be anything for you and do anything to make you happy, that you're there to just be there with them. So I want to thank you for that.
I'm going to cry.
In person, you did it over Zoom, which is even harder. I don't know how you did that. And we're so grateful that you've been teaching us for so many years. It's like 6 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you guys for the opportunity. I like working with United We Home has seriously changed everything about my practice, my teaching. And I'm so happy that I applied right when I first started teaching, because I kind of like instantly broke out of like the mold of, there's this inherent like authoritarian, I'm the teacher, you're the student. And sometimes that's fun. And it can be like, oh, look, I'm the teacher, like you go into like a packed class and it's fun and you vibe off that energy. But in these classes, especially, you put me in with like teenagers, which I love. I love the challenge, but I love it because it's a challenge, because they are not down with being told what to do. They're not down. And they're going to tell you like, hey, no, I'm not going to do what you say. We're going to do what I say today. And it has had such an impact on me, because I love that. I love being like, oh, well, okay, like someone just put me in my place. Like, let me stand my ground. We'll have a conversation and we'll come to a compromise. We'll work on what I think is important and what they want to work on. And I take that into all my classes now. And that idea of like, maybe we'll do some yoga today and maybe we won't. I was teaching, it's on hold for the summer just because class, attendance during the summer is a little rough, but I was holding this virtual trauma-informed class called Cup of Calm. And some days it was like mostly just talking and checking in with one another on Zoom, maybe 5 minutes of like self-massage or just some gentle stretching. Other days it was like legs up the wall for 20 minutes. And who's to say what's yoga and what's not, and yeah, that's what I got from working with all these organizations and these, these kids. By the way, I moved, but I'm still in Amityville. I'm even closer to Hope for Youth than I was before, which is like nearly impossible. I'm literally right down the block. And I miss them so much. I hope that we can one day, make it happen again.
Yeah,
We're working on it. That plan is for us to get back out there and get back into it, because the virtual, it's been tough. That bar, that adding that extra barrier to practice.
Oh, it's been tough for us. It's tough all around. Just getting people to almost hold themselves accountable for showing up when there's no one actually there to show up for. It's just a screen. I get it. But yeah, I take all of that with me into all of my classes, and I think it made me a better teacher. I think without United We Own, my teaching career would be very different than it is right now. I think that you guys have a huge part of Dhyana Yoga, and what we were able to accomplish was because of working with you guys and learning how to hold space for so many different abilities, so many different levels, so many different ages, and just coming from different walks of life in this one space of yoga. And
well, if
super
that's
kind
even
of
a
really
little
hard.
bit true, we are extremely proud and honored.
Yeah, it's true.
So I just was curious. I mean, you know, little teaching moment here. Like, if you were to try to, like, what are some tools and tips that you have developed over the years for maybe somebody who is new and coming and teaching in trauma to create that authentic space where people feel like they can be themselves and they can say, yeah, I'm not up for it today, or whatever. What's just a couple of things that you kind of know can be your go-to when you walk in and you're already getting that, like, you're getting that vibe, like, I ain't gonna play.
Yeah. I think I picked up a lot from, so I've done a couple of the United We Own trainings, the trauma trainings and whatnot. And I don't know exactly where all these things came from, but I know I picked up a lot from you guys and some of your guests that you've had in. And one of the things that stuck with me is it's not a battle for power, right? It's not like you're giving someone the power by them telling you what to do. It's about setting boundaries and communicating. Like, okay, you don't have to do any of these poses, but can you stay in the room today? Can you stay and maybe just take a breath? And even before we get that far, I always start my classes, my karma projects, with an introduction. Every time we meet, you're going to tell me your name if you want to. If you don't want to, don't tell me your name. But every time we meet, as if we never met, tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me how your day is going, so that you meet each other on the same level. And that opens up the room, I think, to just being present.
That's so genius. That's genius.
Can we just go back? I just want us all to hear that one more time. There's no expectation for anybody to make any shape with their body. The challenge could be staying in the room if you choose to, or taking a breath. And that is, like, just hearing you say that, like, these are the reasons why you're a teacher that we can send into difficult places where resistance lives really strongly, because that, you know, that isn't something that you learn from anybody else, like including us, because we can say things and give manuals, I can tell you, and people will just ignore them when they get into
panic mode.
Like Raph said, someplace that's a little too hot, and you know it's very hot, and then if it's not living deep inside of you, it'll go out the window, and we all go to what our autopilot is. And the fact that your autopilot is like, we're all just humans together in the room, you know, like that's the expectation, is really special.
It's hard. It's hard to remember in those moments. Like, you want to be like, no, like, we're here for yoga, like, just do the thing. But you have to kind of check yourself as the teacher and put yourself in line. Like, you know, sometimes I need to just be like, hey, I'm the person too. I'm having a bad day too. Maybe I don't even want to be here either. And we're here together. We're just going to make the most out of it. And listen, there's times when people don't want to stay in the room, and, you know, maybe I have to escort them out to whoever's, you know, taking care of them. And that's fine. They could try again next time if they want to, and they can not come back if they don't want to. But at least they showed up, they gave it a shot. And I always appreciate it. I never, you know, get offended or anything like that. But maybe I would have if I didn't have all this practice, you know, from working a couple different karma projects now. I think in the beginning, it was probably a little shocking to be put in a situation where someone was like, no, hell no, I'm not doing that. Like, oh, people are allowed to say that, and I have to learn how to deal with that. Yeah. But I always like to call people out, and so I like to be called out equally. You know, call me out on my crap, and we'll work around it. So
our Rooster Marie will call it out anytime.
Marie is calling it out.
What a lovely sound.
I know, all day long.
Yeah, but it starts at literally just a
4:45.
littlest peak of sun coming over the mountains, and he is up and at 'em.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, well, that is really cool. And you know, it was actually kind of like when you struggle, it's like not doing the sage on the stage. Like, I don't even want to be here sometimes, you know? Like probably
Can we talk about
one
that?
out of every 6 classes,
definitely...
I'm like, oh my God, just take a breath. You know, I get it. I really get it.
Honestly though, like the switch from experiencing COVID and switching to virtual and not having to drive to every studio on Long Island, it's finally this past year I've been able to take that breath, and I'm noticing that I'm able to show up more present and more there for my students, whereas I'm not dreading or rushing in traffic or like I just have to get there and get it over with. I wake up excited to open up my laptop, and it is just that like that breath of fresh air. Just I'm actually excited to be teaching again. It's a nice refreshing feeling. And I wasn't expecting that to happen because I loved teaching at studios. You know, I love teaching in person and again, being in a packed room, because there is that play on, like you said, like being on stage and like feeding off your ego. So
isn't it so interesting?
It's a huge hit to the ego to be like, oh, these are just little boxes on a screen and nobody's reacting. I can't tell if they're laughing at my jokes or if they're, you know, if their camera's not even on. I don't even know if they're
the black box. Ooh.
Yeah.
Hard. Really hard.
It is very hard, but it's interesting. And like I said, I love being challenged, and I think, I don't know, I'm starting to enjoy it.
Amanda's here from Sucker Hillside. Amanda!
Oh, hey!
Oh, Amanda. Amanda, yes. So that is one of the amazing places that we were talking about that Jenna has shared yoga. When we were talking with Amanda about yoga teachers coming into the inpatient unions at the Behavioral Health Center at Sucker Hillside Hospital. There's a teen unit, and I toured all the units with Amanda, and I walked on the teen unit, and I was like, well, I know who I'm sending here. There was no question in my mind. And she has a new baby. I know you do.
Don't you worry. We know all about babies.
The baby can be here as the baby is as well, Amanda. It's okay. The baby can.
You can also leave and take care of your baby.
So there is something that I really did not want to miss the chance to talk with you about, because for anybody that's joining us now or in there now, we kind of don't plan these at all. These are just people we love that we love to talk to, and we figure instead of like talking all by ourselves, like why not have a conversation where everybody can be here. And Amanda's saying Jenna was the best and so missed. Yes, Jenna was amazing, and we can't wait until we can have teachers back at Sucker Hillside.
Loved it there. It was always so fun.
Yes, amazing. So Jenna, you and I have something in common, and maybe Matt did too, that that is generally what's the name of something that's taboo. But I feel like you and I both feel is like so not taboo and is actually really a part of yoga, really and that's death. And I think it's something that we don't talk about at all in the West, but when we look at where yoga came from and the texts about yoga and the understanding about these practices and how they interface with the life of a human being and all beings, we definitely are talking about death all the time. How do you see that connection, which I know is like ever present in the way that you approach yoga with Dayani and in your own self? Like I have a beautiful candle, which I'll grab before we're done, that I got from Dayani Yoga, and it's a skeleton in Vriksasana, in tree pose, and I will never burn it because I never wanted to go. I love looking at it and remembering like that symmetry between like who I am on my yoga mat and like who I really am and how that is. Like what does it mean to you, yoga and death?
There's so much, and I have been so intrigued by death from an early age. When I was a kid, I was always like just trying to learn about it because it was never talked about, especially in my family. Not to fault anyone, but it was very like
love you, Mom.
Nobody talked about it. It's our culture, right?
I mean, my family was very like, I remember when my great-grandmother died, the first thing I said was, "Yay, can I go to a funeral finally?" And my mom was like, "Oh my God, like that is a horrible thing to say." But so I've always just been so intrigued by death. And I think, for one, it's just because it is so taboo, and I just want to break the rules and like learn about everything that nobody wants to talk about. And two, it makes me feel more alive by acknowledging the fact that, you know, things are impermanent. And I think the yoga practice is exactly the life and death cycle, because you have to arise, like Leah says at Breathe and Flow, arise, abide, and dissolve. You come into the pose, you exist in the pose, and then the pose goes away, it dies. The whole sequence of a sun salutation, the whole sequence of a yoga mala, a yoga practice, you know, from birth to death, we can't ignore it. We can't pretend it doesn't exist. It doesn't make sense in my mind to do that. So I've always it's just come natural to me to just embrace it. And so when we started Dhyani, we always really wanted to acknowledge all the different aspects that make us human in the rawest form, the things we don't want to talk about, the awkward things, the painful things, the sad things, things that make us angry. And death is the main one. It's the most obvious one that comes to mind. So we wanted to have some merch that is a little reminder, like memento mori, remember that you too will die. And we actually used to have, I don't know if you guys remember, when we started doing the Zoom classes, we had a class called Dhyani Discussions. And it was just a free or donation-based class where all we did was talk about taboo topics that you would never hear about in a yoga studio. And awesome. It was from everything from like, share one of your most embarrassing memories in a yoga class, and people were like, I farted in class once, and like, and then it was like, you know, more serious things like I don't know if death came up, but stuff like that, just all the taboo. And I think just surface level, like breaking the rules and just pushing the barrier of what you can talk about helps you grow and makes you more authentic and a more authentic version of yourself. And like, I could go on for hours about why specifically death intrigues me, but it really just comes back down to like, let's just talk about everything and not hide anything.
And I feel like Daddy's here now too. Hi, Daddy.
Yeah, hi, Dad.
I feel that it's such an important balm, not only for us in general and our generation, but particularly in you know, the yoga community, which really is hard to, you know, I hear a lot of people say, well, but in the yoga community, and you know, I think that the pandemic has maybe been a time when many of us have started to like people have found Dhyani from far away that might not have. I think we've all kind of opened up our lens a little bit, and it's really led me to see how diverse, you know, the yoga community is. I wonder if we could even call all of ourselves like a community. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, we can in the same way we're all Americans, and we couldn't be more diverse.
Yeah, but what, like, because Dhyani is a community. It
yeah.
is. What is a community to you?
I've been spending a lot of time thinking about this because I always felt like a part of a community being involved in yoga, period. But what I think was always lacking for me in any community that I've been a part of is that sense of togetherness, not just being in the same room, but being for one another, right? Being there for one another and holding space for one another. And I think something that gets missed, and a lot of people like nowadays are like, I can't do yoga online, I need the community. And I'm like, you don't know community until you've found Dhyani. Like, Dhyani community is tight knit. We are a super strong community, but we're not together in the same room. So how is that possible? Right? You're there for each other. You're there to lift each other up outside of the yoga class, outside of the mat, in any way that someone needs. We're all here for each other. Whereas beyond that, I just felt there was a little bit of like, I'm here for me, but I see you, right? You know, like we're in the same room, but I'm here to focus on myself. And
so well said.
Yeah, it's just really, it's been just so amazing to watch this sense of community that I didn't even know could exist happening. And it just feels really important. I think we need more of that in yoga, but also just in life.
Well, there's that ability to be vulnerable with people that you don't have to interact with directly on the day-to-day of your life, right? They're not in that sort of inner circle world. And I think that's really super cool. You know, I mean, that's the whole thing, right? You can tell us, you sit down in the subway and you tell your stranger something like that you would never tell anybody who you have to actually like face that next day. And I wonder if there's some sort of an aspect to it, you know? I mean, I still go back to like, you've really found your others. You found the other people who want this darker side.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because when I think about it, like, sometimes I get a little sad that like some of my in-person real life friends don't practice or don't participate in the community that I've been working on. But it's also like, okay, maybe I need like this little bit of distance in a way to be able to be vulnerable and to be able to like let that part of myself out. And maybe that applies to some of the other people who are involved as well. I don't know. It's interesting to think about. Sometimes you don't want to open up to the people who you're going to see every day. And, you know, it's an interesting thought.
Yeah. And it definitely is a space where being vulnerable and authentic is encouraged. And that is something that I think we're not used to doing.
A desire to be challenged too, you know? I think if you choose to interact with...
Oh yes, I practiced with Jenna.
Engage, right, yeah, but if you're choosing to engage, like, it's like you're saying, you talk about topics that it's taboo to discuss. Mm-hmm. And so you're going to be challenged. You know, there was you had a pair of leggings that was one of the first times I was like, whoa. And I remember, I think it had Hitler and Mao on it.
No, we had
there was somebody.
Charles Manson. We had Charles Manson.
Manson, that's what it was. I was going to say, it was somebody. It was like,
they have been retired since then, so I almost forgot they existed. But yeah, that was a while back.
but you know, it really made me have to sit and think.
Right.
Like, what does it mean to say we are all one? This world is a reflection of what is going on. Like, what does that mean to you? Like, these things exist, and I really had to toss and toil with it, and like, you know. What does it mean to love all beings? What does it mean to love a fucking guy like Charles Manson? Mm-hmm.
And that was the whole entire...
You don't see that in the... I'm sorry.
Right. And I think that design was Leanna's idea, and that was literally the whole idea behind it, was maybe no one's going to buy these. Surprisingly, people did. But it was more like get people to scroll and stop and just think, you know, and just think about these things. Like, how can I have compassion towards, you know, this person or that person that challenges me? And that's also like a form of meditation, right? Sending out love and kindness to someone who pushes your friggin' buttons. And so we pushed the boundaries a little bit with that one, but
and it's very clear. Yeah. It's very clear if you know, if we don't do yoga lifestyle light, which is like good vibes only, you know, it's incredibly clear that the call of every spiritual leader that we can ascribe, from like Buddhism all the way over to yoga, and the message is like we are all one, and that, you know, like it is not that
it includes everyone.
We are not picking and choosing.
Yeah,
and it's a non-dual experience, you know, the experience of liberation. And we see a lot of like organizations, like, let's go back to United We Own, you know, they're, and a really interesting mirror, I think, which is that, you know, as an organization, we can't ever cherry pick who, you know, it feels like, you know, are worthy or the other. It's been something that we've gone through a lot in our organization, like
million ways.
When
budget's too big, budget's too small. It's just it's infinite thinking.
It's not even
about
budget.
Infrastructure.
No, but like when George Floyd was killed, that was a really difficult moment for us as an organization, because we had been working with Officer Katie for more than a year, and we had, you know, really we were working on how to deliver effective yoga and meditation to police officers. And then all of a sudden there was this moment where it was like, can we do that? Like, can we, like, is that okay? And like, we had to sit with it for a long time and come out with the fact that like, yes, because we also share practice with people that are like victims of gun violence and incarceration. But yeah, like it's not up to us to say we choose this group because we feel like they are good, and this group now we will not choose because they are bad. We're all, you know, people who are incarcerated, you know, there's a whole spectrum.
Yeah. Well, we also sought, you know, the advice of people of color who are a part of our organization to provide us with their, because they had obviously a much greater understanding, but that was one of the things that we went for, was that, yes, we want to continue to provide practice to police officers. Obviously, there's a need and a benefit for what yoga meditation is able to offer, but we also at the same time wanted to then start to provide practice for people who had been victimized by authority at some point. And so it's a balance. Everybody needs it, right? And yeah, we don't want to be that organization that picks and chooses. We want to serve whoever the call is, right? Wherever the teacher wants to serve.
Right. And I totally...
Did I ramble or something? You just gave me a look like, what are you talking about?
I totally understand where you're coming from. And, that was a hard and challenging time for us too, as a company.
Yes,
we're very outspoken, that we're very outspoken about our beliefs. But we're also, again, holding space for everyone. And we've never, told anyone they couldn't come to class, and never pushed anyone away that had different beliefs. But unfortunately, a lot of people pulled away because they felt like, their beliefs were right and our beliefs were wrong, or whatever it is. But we've always had open doors, and it was challenging to be able to say what feels authentic to us and put it out there, how we feel and where we stand, while also holding the doors open for everyone. And so something actually really amazing happened. We had certain students that were regulars that, disappeared after that, after some...
I just want to put a pin in it, because again, you're being very humble. But I just want to give context that when George Floyd was murdered, and there was a big call for enough of just not recognizing, but we need to address racism, structural racism, and white supremacy. And Dayani and Jenna and Liana were two of the only yoga studio owners that we witnessed who addressed it openly and took a lot of shit for it.
Oh, yeah.
And continued compassionately and lovingly to address it. And I had people reaching out to me at the time who were feeling alienated by their home yoga community, because it was absolute silence on the line and nobody was talking about it. And I sent them to you. And they said, it doesn't feel okay for me to practice yoga in a studio where it's not okay to talk about this, and we're all just going to be silent to protect our bottom line. And I don't know what to do. And I'd say, go to Dayani Yoga.
Yes.
There's a conversation happening. So
yes.
Sorry, that's what we're talking about here. So go ahead,
I
Jen.
really appreciate you saying that. And I really appreciate that you did, because I know that people were coming to us that were like, Jenny sent me, or Matt sent me to you guys. And it was great. And we made some lifelong connections that way. And we did some fundraisers, and we're just putting out there, trying to express how we felt in a safe way, while again still holding space for everyone, no matter where you stand. And there were a lot of students who gave us a lot of crap for it. And we, again, just said our doors are open. If you want to have a discussion, you want to talk to us, we're here to talk. If you want to come back one day, we're here. And actually, some of them finally came around. Many months later, however long it's been, they're just starting to come back around now. And it's great. We're still here. We're ready. Everyone is able to change, and everyone is able to have a strong opinion about something, and then maybe realize that might not have been the right thing, or whatever. Or maybe they realized that they just missed practicing yoga with Dayani. I don't know what it is, but we were patient, and a lot of people came back after that. So I'm grateful for that. And I think that our message was received in one way or another. And I can only be grateful for the fact that I have a platform to be able to say those things and just put it out there. Sorry, my phone.
Some beautiful person was just saying that they felt this was a very important conversation, and they wish everyone could hear it. And we thank you for that very kind.
Mama said that love and compassion is all you need.
Mama said love and compassion is all you need. And I think
Mama's advice.
And it's so fun. Yes, Mama. And it's so fun to get to dig into this with you, Jenna, because part of what I've loved about this conversation is that I hope everybody goes and follows Dayani Yoga after this, DAAYANI. But on the exterior, we can make all kinds of stories about all of us about what something is from how it looks. And like, here are these beautiful, tatted up humans who practice in cemeteries, which I think is so rad, and it's on my bucket list. When we get into meaningful conversation with each other, you know, like if we're really practicing, it is just like what your mom said. It's all coming down to like, how are we refining the gold of our heart, this love and compassion? And I love hearing the ways that that's happening, you know, with the community that can look super tough, you know, on the outside. And it's actually one of the most loving, non-judgmental, compassionate crews ever. And I love that juxtaposition. And I hope this conversation inspires people who might have been like, ooh, I don't know, this might be too like hardcore.
And there's a lot of those people out there, and I've heard it all around, like, oh God, Dhyana Yoga, like, oh my God, no, I'm scared of them. And there's all these like terrible things being said for years. And I always say, like, just come to class. I will give you a free class. Come and experience it for yourself. They never do. But, you know, experience it and you'll realize that it's not, the classes might be challenging if you take a power class or like power vinyasa with us, but we also have yin, we have meditation.
But I love Jenna's wheel classes, which are so gentle. And during the pandemic, my whole body was like, I'm sure nobody else experienced that. My son bought me a wheel for Christmas, and I'd asked for one because something about like watching you with that wheel, I was like, I feel like this is what I need. And I go up in my closet that I've ripped everything out of so I can do yoga in there, and I do your wheel classes, and it's the most sweet, gentle, like you said, non-judgmental, like a place for everyone, and it's online, and I still feel completely connected to you. So it's not all power hour. It's
exactly. And wheel is real. Leah knows wheel is like, I just love it so much. I don't know why. I think just because it helps me open up in ways that I don't normally. It just like rolling back on my wheel. It just feels like my heart is bursting open. And I think it's great that you talked about like the walking contradiction of like these tattooed, like hardcore looking, like goth yogis. And then we're doing metta meditation all the time. We're putting love out there. We just did a whole metta the other night where one of my students posted something like how like we look like we're goth, but then we're like doing this like, you know, sweet innocent thing. It's funny, but it's
isn't that always how it is though with the goths? You're always like, hey, look,
we're like the mushiest group. We're the mushiest group of people. We're always like complimenting each other, and it's just, you know, don't be fooled by appearances, or you know, judge us by our appearance and come join us if that's what you're into. But hey, it's still yoga.
My friend used to have a cool shirt. He was a goth, and it would be like goths when you're not looking, and they'd be like laughing, like being really silly, and it would be like goths when you're looking. Like,
I need that.
He's like, yeah, that's pretty accurate, actually.
I want that so bad.
We'll find it. Find it.
That's perfect.
Well, there's one other thing that I would love to chat with you about before we say see you next time, which is what we're doing with all of these, because it's just too good to just do one conversation with all of these. I mean, and I think it's cool because it's kind of an internal organization conversation, but I think that since I haven't gotten a chance to chat with you about it, this is a great moment. Before the pandemic, we had been evaluating how we could do a better job of screening teachers to see like how ready they might be for particular experiences, and how we could refine our training and our manual so that it could kind of be something that could go with teachers for a longer time. And we reached out to our teachers to see, did anybody have any feedback? And of course, like Jenna, you are always somebody that always is like, takes the time to give such thoughtful feedback whenever we reach out to say, like, does anybody have any feedback? Thank you for that.
Feedback is so important. I can't express enough to whoever's listening. Like, always give feedback. How else do people grow if you don't give feedback?
Yeah, but you take that
Constructively
time.
though, right? You gotta have a constructive sandwich.
Yeah.
Compliment, feedback.
No, but Jenna takes the time, and that's really rare. It's really rare, and
it's authentic too, which is always
And you had some thoughts about really great thoughts about like, how maybe it would be based on your first experience, which was me sending you into Mama's house, which is probably one of the, although you didn't move far from that, because from Mama's house to Hope for Youth and Zucker Hillside Behavioral
It's
Health.
pretty much the same.
Yeah. So, and you had mentioned in your email that we're like, I'm really grateful that it was like one of the first classes that I taught. But looking back, I'm not sure that was such a good idea. I'm curious, what do you think are the qualities as a teacher continues to teach in whatever scenario? Like what are those qualities that you feel that a teacher hones that would make a teacher that has been teaching for a bunch of years slightly more equipped to handle something like their first karma project than a brand new teacher? I don't have a goal here, or I'm not like pushing you in any particular way. I just am really curious.
I'll be taking notes.
The first thing that comes to mind, and like the big thing going off in my head right now, is like, get rid of your ego. And I noticed just so many yoga teachers, and I'm not trying to poke fun at anyone, but like ego is a huge part of it. And if you come into a class like that and you are a yoga teacher with an ego, like you're going to have a really hard time. You can't have an ego and go into those classes. You can't have like an inflated ego and go into those classes. And maybe that was even a part of my own issue. The first class, we all have an ego, right? Everybody has it. How do you not have an ego? But you have to learn how to kind of put that aside. Yeah. And I don't know how you judge like, oh, well, this person has an inflated ego or not just from like an application, but I think that's just something for
you. I can tell exactly. I can tell right away. I know exactly what it is.
You're very good at
well, the difference is there's like the Jennas where like on your application, you were just kind of sharing like service means so much to me. And I've like done it by fundraising for like underprivileged. It was a school or a camp when you were in high school.
Yeah.
To showing up and just volunteering to do this or that. And I just really love it. And that's somebody that I know is in service to be of service. And then there are more on the other end of the spectrum. And as soon as I see the word need, help, any of those things, I know right away it sets off like a big alarm bell where I know that person is envisioning this work about themselves. Yeah. Like how good it will feel to help, or how good they'll feel when they think and see the world like me. And so that's really good feedback. Yeah, that is like the number one. I agree.
Jenny, you have always said in like the trainings, the karma trainings and whatnot, you've always said like words to get rid of when you're going into these classes is like, I'm not here to help you. I'm not here to do anything for you. I'm just here sharing the experience. And that's how I always try to picture it, whether it's a karma class or not. It's just, you're just sharing yoga. You're not helping, you're not fixing. I can't fix anyone. I'm not like a magical superhero that can fix you.
Nothing's broken.
Right, exactly. Nothing's broken. There's and we're all in it together. I'm on the same plane as I don't see like teacher up here, student down here. So I think that's just a major component that it has to be there, not just for the students, but for the teacher going in as well. Because like I said, you go in there with this idea of like, I'm going to go teach this great class and nobody wants to do anything. And everyone's like, screw you. Like they might, curse you out. They might throw a block. Yeah. And you have to take it. Yeah. And you have to learn how to handle that.
Yeah. Amanda wrote that she agrees, and that of all the teachers that they've worked with at Zucker Hillside, all of you redefined yoga for the patients. Individuals who thought yoga was a headstand were on a mat and breathing. Yes. Let's talk about that. Let's go back to what enables a teacher to approach a practice that's not solely an asana practice. Like where, like, because that's how I started when I was a young teacher. It was, you know, like peppered with other stuff, but like that's where my focus was. What do you think, what has happened for you between when you started teaching and now that allows you to be a teacher that can say, like, it's okay if we don't do any physical shapes today, and to feel totally comfortable that that can still be a practice and experience of yoga in that time frame?
I think as a very heavily asana based teacher, you know, I love asana, I love movement, I love to sweat, and like, yeah, if you take even my karma project, sometimes we're going to pop into a headstand if I feel it's appropriate or not. But I think like having the years of experience of sitting with myself, right, and having those quiet moments, having a meditation practice, having a pranayama practice, helps to be able to go into a room and maybe there's a lot of silence, maybe there's not a lot of movement to distract us from you know, whatever we don't want to feel, or that awkward silence. So in the beginning, you know, as a newer teacher, I guess I don't think I had that as strong of a personal practice like that, where it was also just kind of like fill the gaps. And so throughout the years, it's just been a little bit at a time where I'm learning to leave those gaps open. And maybe someone will say something, or someone will breathe a certain way that changes the energy in the room. And, you know, it doesn't have to be constant verbal cueing or constant, like, move your body this way. It can just be sit and breathe. And that's hard for a lot of people.
You know, who else were we speaking with recently that I'm trying to remember. I think it might have been Lauren Reek, but
it was, I think, yeah.
And there's an echo in what you're saying in something that she said that I felt like what was beneath it was like an ability to really truly love and believe in all the other humans in the room. Because when you approach it like you just described, which is so beautiful, that like you are like something amazing could shift the energy, and the possibility that that might not be led by you, that I'm just like have goosebumps right now on my arms, because that level of integration of yourself with the other people in the room is so unbelievable.
I think that was something that I just experienced within the last one of the more recent karma projects. It wasn't that long ago where I was like, oh, you know, it doesn't have to come from me. I don't know if it was a sigh or if it was a comment or a movement, but it was just something that a student had done that I was like, we all felt this energy shift, you know, and I thought it was a really, really powerful, like, teaching, learning moment. And just
there's a trust, right, that happens as you continue to teach and practice, especially when you share these many awkward moments with people. And there's a trust that this stuff works. You know, that's why we all do it, because it works.
Right.
And I think that there's a trust in that comes with doing it over and over again, of sitting in the silence. Because when you can sit in silence with yourself, it's easier to sit in silence in a room with others.
Right. Exactly.
I did a 20-hour car ride with a buddy of mine, and it was interesting, like to have those big, long 30-minute pauses of silence, and like what would happen inside of yourself, and you could sense the other person, like what's going on. And I think you're tapping into that deeper connection to like this truth of like, it's okay, we're all here and it's fine, and we're all awkward, and
like you said, trust.
Beautiful, love it.
When you're able to meet someone on the same level, and you're not coming into it as like, I'm up here and you're somewhere else, it's easier to trust, and it's easier to open up. And sometimes it's just about getting someone in the room to experience that moment of just trying to show up, that they're like, oh, this does work. So I'm just in this room and it does work, you know?
Yeah. A flexible agenda too, right? Not about you. And that goes back to the ego.
Not about you at all.
Refer back to rule number 1.
Refer back to rule. Check your ego. And you know, when we were talking about ego, since really I think you've just totally nailed it, with that, you also mentioned, and we didn't get a chance to kind of unpack it, but you mentioned not just checking one's ego, not just for the other people in the room, but for the teacher as well. Because, you know, that was my first experience teaching with United We Own, was also at Mama's house, and it was like months of suffering for me. They were fine. I was eating myself alive, and it took me reading a lot and sitting a lot with like, okay, why is this so hard for me? Why is this so uncomfortable for me? To realize that, you know, ego can look like all different kind of things,
Right.
not just like, this is how I want it to be. And I want, you know, like you have to do it this way, or that's not perfect, or I'm so great. Because my thing as a person is not, I'm so great. My whole thing is always like, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. So it wasn't that, but there was a, my ego was showing up in that like attachment to an outcome that I didn't identify. I really did want there to be a certain experience from the other people in the room. And even if that's a loving hope that you have, it's based in your own experience. And therefore it's you inserting your ego into the situation. This is all going to end up like this. And that's how I know that I have been successful. What was it like for you? And there's no teacher that's ever taught for United We Own, I just want to say, that has not. All y'all that are watching live right now, like just give us like a hell yeah. And if you're watching this on the recording, you can drop it in the YouTube comments. There is no United We Own teacher that does not can't honestly say like, oh, well, I never struggled with my ego in this work in any capacity. It is actually the work, I think, you know, the work we're there to do. It might, you know, share something with the people we're in the room with, but really like yoga it's 100% inner. So what did that feel like for you to tango with how your ego showed up? And where have you come from now? Where have you gotten to now?
I think my biggest thing is, and always will be, what is it called? Imposter syndrome, where
yes.
I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
I'm not capable. I don't think I'm giving them anything. I don't think, and then I keep coming back to the idea of, well, you know, I'm not here to fix anyone. I'm not here to change anything for anyone. I'm just here to share the gift of yoga. But it is always there in the back of my mind, whether it's a karma class or my Zoom classes. It's just like, I don't know what I'm doing, even though I have like thousands of hours of experience and thousands of trainings and whatnot. It never feels like enough. And so just that constant doubt. And then you look for, you know, even subconsciously, you look for that feedback that says like, oh, you taught me something amazing today. I felt so great after class. Sometimes no one's going to say anything. And sometimes you can't read their faces either. Sometimes someone's crying because they hated it so much. And like, what can you do? You have to sit with that. And it does make you stronger. I really think that the Karma projects have made me stronger as a person as well as a teacher, because I've had plenty of those moments where there's either no feedback or there's people saying they hate it, or they're just like screw yoga, I'm not even gonna try. I'm like way cooler than yoga, you know, whatever. And it humbles you. It does, you know.
But
I need people to like me.
That's the thing.
I got the imposter syndrome too. I really feel that, but like my moment, I really need people to like me. And the first time I sat down in front of a group of young guys at Mercy First, and these are kids that are experiencing difficulties that like my privileged ass can't even imagine.
Yeah.
And like I desperately need them to fulfill that I'm good and I am worthwhile to being here and sitting and sharing these things. And I love Russell.
We both talked about that a lot.
Russell Brand, I love him. And he talked about in his new book that he went to go speak at this, you know, different people asked him to come speak for causes. And he went to go speak for these young homeless guys, and he got in front of them. And immediately he started blurting out that he had been married to Katy Perry and like all these things because he wanted these guys to like him. Because nobody knew who he was, and it made him feel really insecure. He's like, I'm Russell Brand. No, you don't know. I was married to Katy Perry. He's like, and they all seem kind of impressed. And it made me feel so much better.
Wow.
That this guy who I sort of admire because of the work he's doing and the amount of time he's spending on his spiritual work, and yet still interacting in this insanity, you know, he feels it too. We're all there. It's like we all have that ego, man. We just want the other monkeys to like us.
Maybe one of the reasons why I work really well with like the harder, like the teens and the, you know, people who can be really reactive and whatnot, is because like my mom will probably agree to this. I don't care what people think of me. I don't have that like need to be liked. And so I'm okay.
Good. That's a blessing.
Sometimes it's a gift. Sometimes it's a curse. But a lot of the times I'm just like, you cannot like me today. And I'm okay with that. it's more the imposter syndrome for me, that doubt in the back of my mind. But yeah, if you don't like me, you know, that's cool. I'll be here again next week. Maybe you like me next week.
And usually it goes that way. Usually it does go that way.
It has nothing to do with you.
Because it has nothing to do with you.
Right, yeah. Exactly. I think I have the ability to kind of detach and know that it's not about me, and I don't take that personally, but a lot of people have a hard time with that, and I understand, you know.
Yeah. I'm still working on it. I'm aware of it, and that's the first step, right? I'm aware.
First step. Yeah.
Well, before we say goodbye for now,
This has been awesome.
I just have one more thing that I would just love to hear you say in your amazing, unique perspective. Where you sit right now, and with no pressure that like you would ever have to say that this is still the case 5 minutes from now, but just like where you are in this moment right now, what is yoga to you?
Right now, it comes back to community for me. And that idea of when you ask me what is community, not just being in the same space or doing the same activity, but really being that all for one and everyone, you know, practicing for the greater good. I think that is the heart of yoga to me. And especially now we're all so divided. We're also physically still a lot of us separated. I think we need that more than ever. Just be there for one another however you can. And if you can't do that, you need to work on your yoga.
Mic drop. Jenna Mannino.
As usual.
Thank you so much. This has been an hour that has completely recharged me, as always, every time we
Me too. And I was so nervous, but this was great.
Oh, yeah.
No nervousness necessary. Yeah. United we all.
Imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome. And before we close, though, because this is going to go onto not only the IGTV, but onto our YouTube, Jenna made some beautiful practices for us that are on our bio. If you just click on our bio, it'll say practice with Jenna right there. Thank you, Leah, for making that beautiful thing happen. I highly recommend it. I'm sure if you've watched any length of this, you are already headed there because you can see how beautiful she is. But also, Jenna, please share with folks how else they can like continue to stay connected with you.
Yes, please. You can follow Dayani Yoga. It's DAAYANI Yoga, just on Instagram. My Instagram is, I don't even know if my Instagram handle is like Jenna Mannino or Jenna Dayani Yoga. I don't know. Something like that.
Let's see. Jenna.Dayani. Yeah, I can see it up at the top here. It's Jenna.
Follow Dayani. Just follow us there. Matt's wearing one of our shirts. We have a whole merch line. You can go to DayaniYoga.com and you can click virtual studio. We have a whole virtual class every single day, multiple times a day, everything from yin to power yoga, everything in between. We've got tarot readings on Sundays. We've got bar classes, which are crazy awesome. I don't teach them. I take them. They're amazing. And we do some pop-up in-person events, which you can find at events.dayaniyoga.com. And that's, I think, it.
That's a lot. There's plenty.
I'm sure there's more.
And
we also have a recording library as well. So if you can't make live classes, you can check those out and rent or buy.
I was going to say that's generally how I do out, because Jenna will post, or Dayani will post like, hey, we have like 3 new wheel classes, and just like you can, just buy them. And then unlike everybody else, also you just set like people just get to download them, right?
Yes. So we just changed things up recently where now you have the ability to either rent it and you can play it for a certain period of time, or you can buy it and play it however many times you want, which is so there's 2 different pricing options, makes it a little bit more affordable. And also, anyone who's watching this, if you want to take a class with us and money's an issue, just message us. We're happy to give you your first few classes on us. We just want to meet you, so come hang out.
Oh, and they mean it. They really mean it.
Yeah,
that's
please
so
come.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Tell them United We sent you.
That's right.
Thank you.
It's been wonderful, Jenna. Thank you so much.
We love you.
And there was a question earlier. It is not Robitussin. I am drinking kombucha, which I drink in excess. If they ever find out that this stuff is bad for you, I am in deep trouble.
Kombucha.
Who's
Kombucha.
drinking Robitussin? What?
I saw that in the comments. I was like, what? Oh, they're talking to me. I was the guy they referred to.
That's hilarious. I love that person's voice.
Yes, it's values. Yeah.
So Jenna, we love you and
All right.
everybody that's been here with us, Mommy and Daddy and Leah and Raph and Amanda.
I love you all.
Thank you very much.
And we'll see you soon, Jenna.
Bye.
Bye, Jenna. Be well.
Bye.
Bye, you too.
Oh, so